Hello and welcome to my channel. In this episode, I'm discussing Bohr's atomic model. If you have seen my last episode, that was Rutherford atomic model, the link of that video is in the description box here below. So, in that episode, I have clearly mentioned that major drawback of Rutherford atomic model was Rutherford was not able to explain the stability of electron in an orbit. So Niels Bohr tried to explain the stability of electron. So let's meet on the other side to understand the Niels Bohr's atomic model. Welcome back, and if you have not subscribed to our channel, then do consider subscribing to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon. So let's see what is Bohr's atomic model. So now in Bohr's atomic model, the first thing that he hypothesized, that was quantization of angular momentum. Now, the quantized angular momentum is given by m, mass of electron, m v r would be nh over 2 pi, and in my further discussion I would be taking this h by 2 pi as h bar. So I can write this formula as mass of electron V r would be nh bar. So this was the angular momentum, quantized angular momentum for an electron in an orbit. So we can just shuffle the terms and calculate the velocity of the electron in an orbit. So it would be given by V is nh bar over mass of electron into radius of orbit. Now the total force acting on an electron can be given by F is force, which is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught E square over R square, and which is equal to m, mass of electron, velocity over R. Now substituting the value of velocity obtained from this quantized angular momentum in this formula, I can write it 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught E square over R square would be mass of electron over radius into n square h bar square over mass of electron square into radius square. So now solving this equation and calculating r, that is radius. So radius is 4 pi epsilon naught and h bar square over m, mass of electron, into charge of electron square into n square. Now this can be written as r would be r0 dot n square, where r0 is 4 pi epsilon naught h bar square over mass of electron into charge of electron square. So this is, and if we substitute the values in this equation, so it would come out to be 0.0529 nanometers, or it is 0.529 angstroms. So now we can calculate the radius of the orbit, and this is known as Bohr's radius for nth orbit. So nth orbit, for any orbit we can calculate. So if it is first orbit, then it would be, the value of n would be equal to 1. So we can calculate R1 would be 0.0529 nanometers into 1 square. So it would be 5.29 into 10 raised to power minus 11 meters. So this is the smallest radius of an orbit in an atom. And likewise, we can calculate radius for second orbit, third orbit, and so on. So now this is an important number because it is radius of first orbit in hydrogen atom. So let's summarize. On your screen you can see important formulas and important values that would be used in numericals. So you can jot it down or you can take a snapshot of the screen. So up till now we have seen how to calculate Bohr radius, and let's move ahead to understand how to calculate velocity. So Bohr quantization of angular momentum was given by like mvr is nh bar. So just shuffling the terms to calculate velocity. So now velocity would be given by nh bar over m into r. Now if I am calculating velocity for nth orbit, so it would be given by nh bar over m into radius for nth orbit. So now as we have calculated, now radius for nth orbit is r0 dot n square. So now velocity for nth orbit is nh bar over m, that is mass of electron into r0 into n square. So n square, just removing n square. So now velocity for nth orbit is given by h bar over mass of electron into radius of absolute radius into 1 by n. So now we can by substituting the value of Planck's constant divided by 2 pi and mass of electron, we can calculate the velocity of the electron in first orbit. So velocity of electron in first orbit would be 2.19 into 10 raised to power 6 meters per second. Accordingly, we can calculate velocity for second orbit or velocity for third orbit by substituting the values, because mass of electron is known. Now R0 we have already calculated. R0 is 5.29 into 10 raised to power minus 11 meters, and substituting the value of R0, and n is orbital number, which is always an integer value. So now this is an important value because we would be using this value in numericals. We know the velocity, so we can calculate the linear momentum. So linear momentum is given by P is m into v. So now if I am calculating linear momentum for nth orbit, so it would be mass of electron into velocity of nth orbit. So now if I substitute the value of velocity of nth orbit, so mass of electron into, it is h bar over mass of electron into r0 into 1 by n. So linear momentum for nth orbit would be given by h bar over r0 into n. So this is the linear momentum of electron in any orbit. So using this formula, we can calculate linear momentum for any orbit in hydrogen atom. So if I am calculating linear momentum for first orbit, then it would be, the value would be 1.99 into 10 raised to power minus 24 kgs meter per second. So this would be the linear momentum, and this is an important value. So summing up what we have done up till now, on your screen you can see the formulas for calculating velocity of electron in any orbit and calculating linear momentum of electron in any orbit, and there are values for different orbits. So you can jot it down or you can take a snapshot. We have seen quantization of angular momentum, radius or Bohr radius, then quantized velocity of electron in an orbit, and quantized linear momentum of electron in an orbit. So now let's see the quantized energy for an electron. So according to Bohr, the quantized energy for an electron in an orbit is given by energy for nth orbit is minus 2 pi square m e raised to power 4 z square over n square h square. So this is the value of quantized energy for an electron. Now m is mass of electron, E is charge of electron, Z is atomic number, N is orbit number, and H is Planck's constant. So if we substitute the values, so we can calculate the nth orbit energy, and that would be minus 1312 into Z square by N square kilojoules per mole. So this is the energy of electron, 1 mole of electrons in nth orbit. So now if we convert this energy into different units, so it can be like nth orbit energy in joules would be minus 2.18 into 10 raised to power minus 18 into Z square over N square joules per atom. So this is the energy of an electron in an atom, or basically a stationary state. These energies are described for the stationary state or a specific orbit in an atom, and the energy, nth orbit energy expressed in electron volts, so it would be minus 13.6 into Z square over N square electron volts per atom. So these are the different forms in which energy can be expressed. Now let's try to understand this equation, that how this equation is important and what are the characteristic features in this equation. So if I calculate the energy for hydrogen atom, then Z would be equal to 1. So accordingly I can write this equation, En is minus 1312 into 1 square over N square kilojoules per mole, and the value can be written as minus 1312 over N square kilojoules per mole. So this would be the energy. Now this energy, suppose I am calculating for first orbit, so even n, when n is equal to 1, so it is for first orbit. So in case of first orbit, it would be minus 1312 kilojoules per mole. Now for second orbit, it would be E2, which would be minus 328 kilojoules per mole. So this is the value of second orbit. Now energy for third orbit can be calculated. It would be E3, which would be minus 145.7 kilojoules per mole. The interesting thing is, in case of E infinity, it would be, the energy would be 0 kilojoules per mole. So this is how the energy of electron would change. Now in this case, infinity means, suppose this is nucleus and this is the valence shell of an atom. If I am considering hydrogen atom, so say this is the first orbit of hydrogen atom. So the infinity distance would be when electron is suppose present outside this orbit and this nuclear charge is incapable of attracting this electron inside the orbit. So this distance would be termed as infinite distance. So that is when we eject out electron from the atom, it would be infinite distance, and at infinite distance the energy would be zero. So this was the first thing, important thing about this equation, that energy of electron changes, or as the stationary state changes, the energy associated with that stationary state also changes. Now the second important point with this equation is this minus sign. Now what is the significance of this minus sign? Suppose if I draw a number line, say this is a number line, and on this number line say this is 0, and say this is minus 1312. Now this energy is say minus 328. Now this energy is say minus 145, and so on. So when the electron is present in first orbit, it has lowest energy, and when it approaches towards the outer orbitals, so the energy of electron is increased, because we are moving from minus sign to 0. So when electron is present near to the nucleus, the energy of the electron would be least. But as it moves away from the nucleus, the energy of electron would increase, and when it reaches the infinite distance, and when this electron would reach at this infinite distance, the energy would be maximum. So at this point, energy of the electron is maximum, and in the first orbit, electron energy is minimum. So it is the minimum energy when it is closest to the nucleus, and it increases when it approaches towards infinity. Now the minus sign in this equation indicates that suppose electron is present in this first orbit, and now this electron is strongly attracted by the nucleus. Now to remain in this stationary state, the electron will be having some negative energy, or the energy which will counterbalance the inward pull. So this negative energy indicates that when electron is closer to the nucleus, it has to apply more force to be in that orbit or stationary state. But as the electron moves away from the nucleus, so say this is nucleus, and if electron is present in first orbit, it would be this, the second orbit would be this, the third orbit would be this. So as electron moves away from the nucleus, this is first orbit, this is second orbit, and this is third orbit. So as electron moves away from the nucleus, the energy, the attraction force of nucleus would decrease, and because of decrease of the energy, the negative pull that is generated by the electron would also correspondingly decrease to be in that stationary state. So negative sign is indicating the retarding force or the opposite pull to counterbalance the inward attraction by the nucleus. So these are the two things which are important for this equation. So to sum up, on your screen you can see the nth orbit energy for different energy states and the significance of negative sign as well as the minimum and maximum energy of the electron. You can jot it down or you can take a snapshot of the screen. So we have discussed the formula. Nth orbit energy is given by minus 1312 into Z square over N square kilojoules per mole, and this is quantization of energy. So for hydrogen atom, for H atom, we can write the energy as nth orbit energy is minus 1312 over N square kilojoules per mole. Say now in hydrogen atom, say this is nucleus and this is first orbit, this is second orbit, and say this is third orbit. So now if this is first orbit, so this would be E1 energy, this is E2 energy, and this is E3 energy, and so on. So now if electron is present in this first orbit, and I have already told you that the energy of first orbit is least, then second orbit it increases, and then third orbit it is more, and it would be maximum when it is at infinite distance. So now if this electronic transition is to be carried out from first orbit to second orbit, or from first orbit to third orbit, so now in this case we have to supply some energy. Without energy, because we have to increase the energy. Now in this case, E1 is less than E2 or E1 is less than E3. So if the electron is to be shifted from first energy to first energy state to third energy state, then we have to increase the energy, and we have to then provide energy by a wavelength. So wavelength has to be made incident, then only the electronic transition is possible. So we can calculate the energy required. So the change in energy, delta E change in energy, would be given by E final minus E initial. So it is final energy. Now final energy would be, if it is this electronic transition is occurring from E1 to E2, then this would be the final state and this is initial state. So it is final minus initial energy. That difference in energy, if electron is given, then only electron would jump into the next energy level. So we can just substitute the values. So it is delta E change in energy would be minus 2.18 into 10 raised to power minus 18 over N2 square. Now I am taking N2 as final state, final energy level, and N1 या final orbital, and N1 would be initial orbital, and this would be minus of minus 2.18 into 10 raised to power minus 18 over N1 square. So now shuffling the terms, so it would be, and taking out common, as 2.18 into 10 raised to power minus 18, 1 over N1 square minus 1 over N2 square. So this is the formula for calculating the energy required for the electronic transition. So now say if the electron is to be moved from first orbit to third orbit, so this would be N1 would be 1 and N2 would be 3. So if we are carrying out transition in this case, so in this case N1 would be 1 and N2 would be 2. And in this case, N1 would be 1 and N2 would be 3. So this is how the electronic transition is carried out, and this formula will give us the energy required for that electronic transition. Now we can also calculate the wavelength that would be sufficient to make that electronic transition, or frequency that is sufficient to make this electronic transition. Now we know that energy is given by hc by lambda, which is, we have studied in Planck's quantum theory. So if energy, now this change in energy or energy is one and the same thing, so I can write it hc by lambda would be 2.18 into 10 raised to power minus 18, 1 over N1 square minus 1 over N2 square. So this, by using this formula, we can calculate the wavelength that would be sufficient to make that electronic transition. And if I want to find out frequency, then this formula can be written as h nu would be equal to 2.18 into 10 raised to power minus 18, 1 over N1 square minus 1 over N2 square. So we can calculate the frequency that is sufficient to make an electronic transition. So to sum up, on your screen you can see the formula to calculate energy for an electronic transition, a wavelength that is required for an electronic transition, or wavelength associated with an electronic transition, and frequency associated with an electronic transition. You can jot it down or you can take a snapshot. So these were the major postulates of Bohr's atomic model. So if you want to stay connected with us, then you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, then do consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to get instant notifications. As a student, it is always advisable to attempt more tests, do more questions, practice more questions. So if you want to practice more questions or attempt more tests, then you can follow the link which is on the top of your screen. And thanks for watching the video.